Fantastic. Okay, so I've gathered you all together here today to talk about our newest opportunity here at the New Jersey Council for the Humanities, and this is for hosting our museum on our next Museum on Main Street exhibit, which is called Voices and Votes: Democracy in America. I hope you've all had an opportunity to review the request for proposals that we sent out. I'm going to hit on just like a couple of high points sort of related to the proposal. I'm not going to go, categorically through it, but I wanted to give you all a little bit of an introduction, and then really to answer questions or brainstorm whatever can be helpful as you think about applying for this opportunity. So. Voices and Votes: Democracy in America is the most recent exhibition to come out of the Museum on Main Street program, MoMS we call it for short, Museum on Main Street. And that is a program of the Smithsonian Institute Traveling Exhibition Service sites. There's like 500 different abbreviations in this like alphabet soup over here. So it's a partnership with the Smithsonian, and Museum on Main Street exhibits specifically travel exclusively to through the state humanities councils. So it is a, rather unique opportunity with sites. New Jersey has hosted a lot of different exhibitions in our history. The most recent one was in 2019 to 2020, which was our exhibition Waterways, and that's all about how sort of an environmental humanities, look at water and how we think about water, how we value water, history of water, how water affects our daily lives. When an exhibition comes to a state, the Humanities Council is responsible for coordinating its tour. It's here for about like 9 months, 10 months, I guess it is. For us, that's April of 2022 through the very beginning of January 2023. I'm sure you saw in the RFP, and you'll see in the application, that an individual site hosts for about 6 weeks. We leave a week in between to manage extra time for moving the exhibition to its next place and getting it set up. Those dates are approximate. We recognize it's a way of beginning to carve up a schedule and help figure out when people are available to host it. It doesn't mean that you will open on the day that we say on that and close on the day on those days. The exact schedule within there can be adjusted. And indeed, the very beginning and the very end of those dates can be adjusted if it makes sense. For example, the November dates, some of you may have noticed, right around Thanksgiving. So we're going to have to plan for the Thanksgiving holiday. No problem. This is an attempt to try to create order out of chaos. The organization that hosts the exhibit, the primary thing that you do is host the exhibit. You put up the exhibit. We offer an opportunity. It is not a requirement, but we do offer the opportunity for you to create additional exhibit to go along. Some of the examples for other organizations that you'll see if any of you are familiar with the MoMS exhibits as well, or any of the sites exhibits, really, the Smithsonian's traveling exhibits, they tend to have broad national themes. So a lot of organizations that host them like to create a more local, focused, smaller exhibition in a similar, on a similar topic. The other opportunity you have is, rather than creating an exhibit to go along with the main exhibit, would be to create additional programming. And we will have opportunities for you to apply for additional funding to do that work. So if you are selected as a site for the MoMS exhibit, we cover all of the costs of having the exhibit in your place, including things like the insurance that's required. We cover the cost of moving the exhibit in between all of the different sites. We cover the costs with the Smithsonian for the rental of the exhibit, and we offer some additional funding opportunities. In addition to that, we are creating a statewide program that we intend to run in all 21 counties of New Jersey, well beyond the 6 counties where this will be hosted. We plan on having these exhibits. Having that program in all of those counties. We want each of the host sites to host that particular program when we have it. but you would also have the opportunity to create additional programs beyond that. So there's like one program that comes along and then you get to create other things. So you get an exhibit, you get a program, and you get, in addition to that, you are required to participate in 2 workshops that are related to the exhibition. One is about putting the actual exhibit together, what you need to know, how it actually works. That is run by the Smithsonian itself. So we sort of gather everybody together and show you how to do it. They are pretty, I have a lot of experience with Smithsonian traveling exhibits. They are made to be transportable without, extensive freight elevators. I have all of the specs are in there, but they're meant to be accessible. They're meant to be able to be put together with regular tools. You don't, need a degree in exhibition design to be able to do this. I come from the museum world. These are things I worry about. So, and so that's one of the required workshops that you have. That's actually closer to when we actually have the exhibit. It would be in like late winter, early spring of 2022. But we also have, we'll be hosting a workshop about programming. So to help people brainstorm program ideas, think about how organizations might want to work together, give you some examples of programs that the Smithsonian has created that you could build upon, and help to connect you with scholars, academics, humanities professionals, many ideas within the state beyond just the community college system, so that we can create a robust series of programs that go along with this exhibition. We are also hiring a statewide scholar. So this will be a scholar who is in charge of sort of the content of the entire exhibition, and will be there as a resource for you to think about programs, to help you out in whatever ways are helpful, and also to create and implement that statewide 21 county program that we'll be bringing along with the exhibition. So that's the sort of basic structure of this program. Is there anything that you know about that I forgot to mention, or can I answer any questions or talk about anything more specific that you might have questions about? Feel free to just unmute yourself. You're also welcome to put questions in the chat, whatever is convenient for you.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a particular period of time that it has to cover?
Really topic-wise?
Yeah.
No, it does not. The exhibit itself, like when you look at the entire exhibit, starts colonial, so pre-America, and goes up into the 2000s. So it's a huge swath. And you are welcome to be as specific or general as far as periods of time that you wish to cover within that. Good question. Will the workshop dates be flexible? Yes. We know we have certain parameters that we kind of have to fit into with the Smithsonian, but our goal will be to schedule the workshops for the people who need to attend them to be able to attend them. That's the most important part. So we'll do our very best to make those happen. Given the state of the world that we live in these days, I suspect that those will be either are likely to be hybrid, including both an online and an in-person component to it. I'm actually, as of the last time I heard from the Smithsonian about this, the MoMS coordinators about this, they were planning on starting to do their installation program workshops in person again, but everything was still a little uncertain. Since everything is just starting to open up again, it's a little bit of a TBD as well.
Hi, Gigi.
Hey, Darren.
Hey, how's it going? The setup. Maybe I didn't read it. Is any of this being hung on walls, or is everything freestanding?
It is entirely freestanding.
Okay. And is there the possibility for funding to pay for setup and takedown, or is that will the institutions be covering the cost of that?
That is actually a really good question that I had not considered. So let me say TBD on that. But the short answer is likely, I would say. I know that we will be offering you an opportunity to apply for additional funding for the program, like for programming around this. So one of the things you could certainly do would be incorporate some of those costs into that funding. But that is actually a really good question. I cannot remember if we covered that the last time, and I will look into it for you, Terrence, okay?
Thank you, Gigi.
I'm writing it down so I don't forget. Installation, and so you're talking about like installation, deinstallation, security, those kinds of costs?
Not necessarily security, but you know, putting it together and then also taking it down and yeah, I guess and moving it from storage back and forth, things like that.
Things like that, yeah.
Yeah.
We do often have we have like work study students who will sit in our gallery space so that it's always manned. So there could be not necessarily security, but costs associated with covering, you know, having somebody there.
So we're gonna, I'm gonna sort of put this all together as like non-program related upkeep, that kind of stuff. Yeah, cool. TBD on that. I'm really sorry that I had not given that consideration. Apologies. Jackie, you had a question or thought?
Yeah, I just wondered about the additional security, that in off hours, we would increase the surveillance by our public safety more than they normally would, although we would always throughout the night and early morning have people there. But I think maybe increased surveillance would be a good idea.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you probably saw in the RFP as well that one of the requirements that we do have, and this actually comes from the Smithsonian, it's not our requirement, is that you do have to be able to close the exhibition. Like it has to have a door that locks and you close it. So something like a hallway that would be accessible at all times is not an option for this particular exhibit.
So just to clarify, when you say continuous surveillance, that doesn't have to be a camera, it could be a human.
No, it should be a human, yeah. When it's open, we want, yes, we want there to be a human. Right. When it's closed, it might be a camera, it might be a person just stopping by. It definitely has to be a locked door.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Sure.
So oh, sorry, go ahead. In reading the information you sent, there's a lot of talk about working with community groups. So I was just wondering if you had some examples of how people have done that in the past, and also sort of the balance between, you know, involving students in programming for the students versus community. Yeah,
so we don't have a preference for one or the other, to be clear. We want one of the goals of the exhibits is really to get people interested in the topic, right? So whether that's getting students interested, getting staff interested, getting your communities interested, that's great. From our perspective, those are people who are looking at this and thinking about the material. But there are certainly a lot of different ways you can think about that. And we like for any host site for moms, which this is the first time that we are specifically working with the community colleges on this. In the past, we've worked with museums, we've worked with libraries a lot. So there's been but each of your institutions may have specific goals about how you can use this as a method of reaching out to particular communities. So for example, if you wish to work with students on this, maybe you want to do this as a partnership with particular classes, great. Maybe you want to do this as a partnership with student clubs or other informal student groups. I know some of my colleagues down in Louisiana, they have one of their sites, they're partnering with a state school. It's not a community college, but a state school. And they're working with the school's Young Democrats and Young Republicans to do some programming, for example. That's one example. So student government and some of the, and also student government, sorry about that. Examples of community-based organizations, in certain cases, we had one of our sites for the waterways exhibit, for example, at the Cape May Ferry, when it was at the Cape May Ferry Terminal, worked with Cape May Audubon because they were very interested in the environmental, aspects of the exhibit. So they worked with the local Audubon group to host some talks and some tours of the exhibit, and some talks and tours together. Libraries are a big partner often for these kinds of exhibits, both in bringing people to the exhibits, but also sometimes in creating affiliated programs. We've seen libraries do book groups on similar topics, for example. So if they have an existing book group and they're willing to say during your 6 weeks, they're going to have 2 or 3 book discussions about different books related to the topic, great. It might be even, there was one, I'm trying to remember, when I went to the national meeting, I'm trying to remember, it might have been Minnesota, my colleagues from Minnesota mentioned that they did one of their host sites did a partnership with the children's librarian at a local library, so that they were reading it was the music related exhibit. So they were reading kids books about music. And they brought a bunch of kids to see the exhibit as well in their after school program, which I thought was different and fun. So those are the kinds of partnerships. Yeah.
A question about the 6 sites and the timeline. Just, for coordination purposes, obviously, like for our campus, where we would potentially host this, also host some other, campus related events. So is there flexibility in terms of when submitting the RFP, saying these would be the best dates? How will that be worked out amongst the final, the schools that are selected?
Yes, that's a great question. So in the actual application, we have the six date periods that we came up with. We ask you to check off what is available, because there may be some that you just it's definite no, you just can't, period. So check off where you're available. And also we ask you to list your top 2 preferences.
Okay.
If the world is extremely nice to me, we will have the 6 sites and everybody will get their top choice. Sometimes the stars align and that kind of thing actually happens. And you're like, how? And then I think about the good that I've done in this world, and I recognize that the universe is paying me back for it, because karma is excellent sometimes. We will do our very, very best to try to accommodate your preferences, with the understanding that we're dealing with 6 different institutions and a lot of stuff going on.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I really hope that there would never be a situation where the date would preclude you from being able to actually be a host site. That would suck. And it has not happened. It has not happened so far in any of the exhibitions that I am aware of, including the one that I was here for, or any of the previous ones that I am aware of.
Can I ask a question about the physical location where the exhibit could be? We were planning on putting it in our Student Success Center, in an open area that is constantly monitored by public safety. When public safety is not there, the building is locked. Is that an acceptable place?
That should be fine. I would take it upon myself to just verify that with the Smithsonian to make sure that fits their definition of a locked space. But as far as if it's not accessible when there's not somebody watching you, then I don't think it would be a problem.
Okay, great.
I will confirm that. I'm writing it down as well. Okay, there was a question from Alice in the chat as well, the weight of the exhibit, the expectations of moving it and handling it. So the exhibit itself is packed in crates. And I'm gonna have to actually open up my details because I never trust myself to remember exactly what the numbers are. So it requires 650 square feet of space and 8-foot ceilings. That's minimum, right? There's a couple different ways actually that it can be set up. So depending on exactly how you set it up, it can be configured a couple different ways. It also does have some screens components in it. So you do need to be able to provide electricity and electrical cords to it. The
Gigi,
cord
that's not, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike many of the concerns, I think, of some of the institutions, I have the full gallery with vaulted ceilings that are 20, 30, 40 feet high at my disposal. What I don't know is how I'm going to move 300 pounds by myself. So I don't know when, if the grant and I know costs to move it here are paid for, do they come with 6 strong young individuals who can bring it up the elevator and do that? You know, I'm comfortable with the other part of it. It's just the physically getting it from the truck to the second floor space.
Yeah, so you are required to provide the additional people to move it. Just so that's very clear, yes. But it does not need to be picked up by itself. Like a regular elevator will work. And I just double check it. Each crate weighs between 150 and 300 pounds, depending on the crates. So, but like I said, it's these are packable in a regular size elevator. It doesn't even require a freight elevator. You do need a lift gate. If you have to go up, in other words, if you have to go up steps, it sucks, and I do not recommend it. Yeah.
Right.
Gigi, one suggestion I have for everybody is this, that because of liability issues, I would not rely upon volunteers, but rather use the custodial maintenance staff at your respective institutions, because considering the weight of those crates, I think that would be a real mistake. So strongly advise having employees of the institution, whatever that happens to be, do the moving and installing.
Yeah, it is recommended by the Smithsonian as well. There are definitely, people definitely use volunteers for this. I will be honest with you. We wouldn't recommend it, or at least not all volunteers at the very least.
Gigi, can you repeat again? I'm sorry, the weight, you said 150 pounds to
300, depending on each crate itself.
Okay, and do you have any sense of the actual size of the crates?
Yes, yes I do. The size of the crates. Hang on, I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't have it at my fingertips, I'm afraid. Let me just double check that really quick for you, Denise. I'm sorry to keep you on hold.
You can even get back to us, I think.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just looking to see if it's really easily accessible to me. It is not. Sorry. I'm gonna have, rather than keep you all on hold while I try to find it in my 200-page guide, let me get back to you about that. Yes, happy to. For peripheral exhibitions, there was a question. Can you use additional lighting? Yes. So, and that the question really comes out of you might have noticed in the RFP, we talk about minimizing the amount of lighting that is going on this exhibition when possible. You can use additional lighting. You can use gallery lighting, absolutely. The effort is to try to make sure that the exhibition is in darkness for a portion of every day. Usually it's when it's closed. So you need to be able to turn off lights, close blinds, to minimize the effects of lighting on the exhibition. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. Let me see. Is it worthwhile to apply if the space would only be available during the summer period? Absolutely. We need this exhibition to be on site from April through January. So on a site, one site in each time. We would love to have some good sites for the summer season in addition to the spring and fall. And I can tell you, given our past experiences with this is a great opportunity to work, especially if you already have a relationship with community groups. That can be a really great time to work with community groups. Summer camps, things like that can be really fun during that time. It's also a time when, if you have relationships with local businesses and nonprofits, that those institutions, particularly nonprofit organizations, tend to slow down a little bit in the summer. And it might be a great opportunity to engage them, to do things like having special tours for some of your partner institutions or organizations that you work with on a regular basis. I know everybody's doing summer classes and everything too, so not like you don't have students around during the summer. Anybody else have thoughts or questions?
Actually, can you speak just a little bit more on exactly like what the exhibit is? Like what kinds of items? Is it just display items? Are they interactive at all? That type of thing?
Yes, there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of everything, honestly. I'm just looking to see if they have some pictures of, I can actually share my screen and show you a little bit of this. 1 second. I'll show you some of the examples. If any of you have recently been to the Smithsonian's American History Museum, have we recently been anywhere? Relatively recently, let's say. This comes out of an exhibition, a portion of the exhibition at the American History Room that's called Democracy in America. So these are some examples of some of the things that are included in the exhibit. And we do have, 1 second. There are some additional pictures of the exhibit itself that I'd be happy to share as well. And I would also be happy to share an outline of the exhibit content. In addition to some of these flat panels, there are also interactive screens with interviews with people about their experiences voting, about their experiences becoming citizens. And there are a couple of different interactives as well to sort of gather information about people's experiences of how they think about democracy, how they think about voting in particular. A lot of the interactive portions particularly have to do with voting. So there's a lot of focus on voting. If anybody, by the way, wants to go see it, if you are interested in that, it is in Maryland right now. So I'd be happy to share that information with you about where you can actually see it. So yeah, the exhibition content itself starts with early republic, so the founding of the country and a lot of the philosophy behind that, from the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and Constitution, and the consecration of the Constitution. The ideas around voting and voting rights. So again, starting in the early republic, about who gets a vote, what does a vote mean, all the way up through a number, like sort of going through a bunch of historical struggles for the right to vote from Blacks and African Americans, women, et cetera. So some of those important moments in our history, how democracy works. So from nominating conventions, what happens at the state and local level versus at the national level, and how this is addressed in the Constitution. And then so a lot of that has to do with the mechanics of democracy, if you will, and the philosophy of democracy that this country was founded on. And then it goes into the sort of last couple of sections deal a lot with protest, speaking out, right to free assembly, and some of those concepts that are enshrined in the Constitution as well, of how you change, things in our democracy. And finally, a section on citizenship. How one becomes a citizen, what it's like when you do this, go through this process, and how that has changed throughout history as well.
Gigi, I had another question, if that's okay.
Please.
I saw that there is, just so everybody knows as well, that there's downloadable supplemental materials for a variety of age groups and topics. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly that in the required section of what you must provide and whatnot, you don't have to develop extra programming. So the exhibit, if selected, the exhibit would arrive, and then the exhibit, or excuse me, the program developed by the NJCH would arrive with it, but there would be no further expectation of additional program unless someone chose to do so. And then
It is
for
correct.
additional funding.
Correct. There is not a requirement for it. We recommend it.
Of course.
And we recommend it, and we try to provide ways of that happening easily by providing additional funding and by providing sample programs that you can essentially like almost pull off a shelf and do.
Okay.
You are also welcome to create your own programs, which might mean applying for, on the higher end of funding that's available, for example, if you wanted to create your own programs.
And how onerous is the application itself? I didn't want to make a commitment for the college without talking to my dean and other people who may wish to be involved. And it said you had to register in order to look at the application. So I don't know how long it actually is and how onerous.
It is short. We do not believe in onerous applications here at the New Jersey Council for the Humanities, mostly because I have to read all of them, and that is too much reading for me. Honestly, it is a pretty short application. We do want to verify that you can physically host it. So that's part of the application, is just saying like, yes, I have verified that I can host it. Yes, I'm willing to do these things that are requirements, etc. And then we want to gather some information. And I recognize, I want to be very clear about this. This is a quick turnaround. You are likely not to have all of the answers to every single possibility of what you will do at this time. What we're interested in the application is saying like, here's what we think. Here's what we're thinking. Here's where our thinking is right now. We have this space, or maybe we have these two spaces and it could actually work in either of these spaces. That's fine. Here are some groups that might be interested in partnering with us. It's not like I'm going to be checking this against what you actually do in the end. It's just getting an idea, a feel for your college and how you might approach this. We are interested to hear if you do have community groups that would be very interested in this. If not, then you might say, no, not really. No, we're not going to work with community groups. We're going to focus on our students and our professors. That's fine. We want to get a feeling for how you would approach having this exhibit at your college and why you think it would be a benefit to you. That's really what we want to know at this point. It is completely acceptable to say in your application to say, TBD, not sure yet, but some of our thoughts are A, B, C, D. Completely acceptable to say we're thinking this or this, and we'll make a final decision close to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Completely acceptable also to say, we did something similar to this 2 years ago, and here were the things that were really successful. So we'd like to build on that. Or I know a number of you who are here today were part of the Democracy Conversations Project in partnership with New Jersey Council for the Humanities. Yes, to say we already started that. We're starting these conversations about democracy already. We'd like to continue those kinds of conversations. Awesome. That gives me an idea of where you are and what you're thinking.
Gigi, I wonder, is it possible to show this exhibit at two different locations, actually two different towns on our campus, rather than just at one? We would have one perhaps in Blackwood and one in Cherry Hill.
In Cherry Hill, for example.
Yes. Would that be possible to show it for a few days at one and a few days at another?
I can't think of anything that says no to that. I can't think of a time that it happened, but I also don't think it would be forbidden. It would add to cost, of course.
Yeah, but see, it's two distinctly different audiences.
Oh, yeah,
In terms of demography.
totally. Yeah, I'm sort of scanning my brain through our contract with the Smithsonian. I would definitely, if you came with that solution, I would definitely want to verify that. But there is nothing that is immediately jumping out to me that says that couldn't happen. I know many of your campuses have multiple, or many of your colleges have multiple campuses. How are we doing? Feeling pretty okay? Cool. Well, I'm not going to keep you any longer than you need to. Getting 15 minutes back when you've reserved an hour is like, God's gift. So to all of us. But if you have additional questions, please do let me know. Don't ever hesitate to call me or email me. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can if I can't answer your question immediately. And I think there's a few questions that I'm going to follow up here about. My advice always is, my contact info, yes, I'm going to put it in the chat, and then you can also find it on our website at njhumanities.org. Oh, do you know how hard the word humanities is to spell? Do you know how often I make a typo in that? There is me. Nope, I'm sorry. That is not the correct number. 609-695-4409. There we go. Jeez. It's a long day. And I am happy to make this recording available. What I can do is send it out to you. If I have any trouble tracking you down, I won't have any trouble tracking you down. I'll find you. But we're also creating it. You have the RFP. We're also putting this up on our website shortly. Apologies for the delay on that, but having a link to some of these materials on our website will also be helpful, I think. And when will this recording be available? Probably tomorrow, possibly Thursday. There is a section of our website. It's at njhumanities.org/resources. And you'll see on that page, there's a whole bunch of different things, including like everything from our grant final report form to our logo available in different file formats. But there's a section that's called webinar recordings and other materials. Click on that and you'll have access to this. I also may host one more of these prior to the time. I know there was a quick turnaround between when this went out to when it came to when I scheduled this this meeting. So I may have another one of these next week, just in case there are additional questions that come up, or if you have colleagues who would like to talk to me prior to submitting your application. I'm gonna hit stop on this recording.